Good to see you again. It's so nice to be here with you. And here's one of the latest articles from Clive. God inspires, I write them down and share them. This is something new that I've finally managed to understand and want to share it with you. And it's called the Old and New Covenant. There is a lot of information, and there is certainly plenty of misinformation on this subject. But what is actually wrapped up in this deep and seemingly complex subject? Now, the Hebrew language allows us to examine this from angle of the Romance Gospel. But then, what is actually a covenant? Quote, the application of the term properly used is a compact between a man and a man, either between tribes or nations, from 1 Samuel 11:1 or Joshua 9:6 and verse 15, or between individuals, Genesis 21:27, in which each party bound himself to fulfill certain conditions and was promised certain advantages. In making covenants, God was solemnly invoked as a witness, Genesis 31:53. Whence the expression, the covenant of the Lord, for 1 Samuel 20 verse 8, Jeremiah 34:18-19, Ezekiel 17:19. And an oath was sworn, Genesis 21:31. Accordingly, a breach of a covenant was regarded as a heinous sin, Ezekiel 17:12-20. The marriage contract is often called a covenant of God, Proverbs 2:17. As a witness of the covenant, a gift was presented, Genesis 21:30, or a heap of stones was set up, Genesis 31:52. It is also improperly of a covenant between God and man. As man is not in a position of an independent covenanting party, such a covenant is not strictly a mutual compact, but a promise on the part of God to arrange his providences for the welfare of those who should render him obedience. And that's quoted from the New Unger's Bible Dictionary, page 259. Here's a new quote. The New Covenant, from Jeremiah 31:31-34. The concept of the New Covenant is Jeremiah's most important contribution to biblical thought. The Old Testament frequently mentions the covenant of God made with Israel, Exodus 19:3-8, 24:3-8, Deuteronomy 21:1-29, which covenant was the foundation of the Israelites' national and religious life. God makes clear through Jeremiah that Israel has failed to keep this covenant, Jeremiah 7:21-26, 11:1-13, and predicts that he will make a new one with his people. A new covenant will not be a new law. The old law is still pretty good, but it will produce a new heart, i.e., it will confer a new motivation to obey the law of God. Jesus, while instituting the Lord's Supper, declared, "This cup of the new covenant in my blood," from ASV 1 Corinthians 11:25 and Luke 22:20. The Hebrews epistle teaches that Christ brought in the new covenant by his perfect and final sacrifice for sin, Hebrews 7:22, Hebrews 8:7-13, Hebrews 10:15-22, and 2 Corinthians 3:5-14. And that was quoted from Wycliffe Bible Commentary, page 679. So what went so terribly wrong with the Old Covenant, as it had to be replaced? Exodus 19:7-8. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their face all the words of the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, "All that the Lord has spoken, we will do." And Moses returned the words of the people unto God. Israel is now at Mount Sinai in Arabia. God comes down in fire and smoke, lays out the terms and conditions, in essence, the marriage contract, and in unison the people agree to be pure and loyal to him. But in just a few short hours, they had broken the agreement, the holy covenant, served other gods, were sexually immoral, and in essence got divorced. God had to think, new covenant. God will do everything this time. Psalm 40 verse 8, I delight to do thy will, O my God, yea, thy law is within my heart. God does it all. We just agree and follow. Isaiah 55, 8 and 9, For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So God's thoughts and ways are way beyond our comprehension. So God uses parables, people's experiences, scripture stories, and now we can comprehend spiritual things from a physical thing. Take the story of in Ezekiel chapter 16. God chooses us when we were at our most vulnerable and at our worst, freshly born, abandoned, naked, yet he loves us beyond comprehension. Now to get to the fullest comprehension, just ask Hosea to tell you, or maybe take his wife Gomer aside and ask, as she has experienced the fullness of God's forgiveness and then fullness of restoration. Just read the whole book of Hosea. Here in summary, Hosea is the lead pastor in the district, but single. God selects for him a wife, and quickly they have a good-sized family. But then there is a problem. Gomer is definitely the mother, but then there are so many different fathers as she has played the harlot, been unfaithful to Hosea. And by this, things go so terribly wrong for her, she's finally sold into sin and slavery. God and Hosea are having a wee chat. Hosea now fully comprehends God's awkward situation, the consequence of sin. He has a flock of children and no wife, as she has been sold out to slavery. God says, we need to get you a wife now so that your ministry can flourish and the children can be cared for. Hosea replies, all handled, already got that one covered. God, who? Missed that one. Hosea, she's Gomer, my wife. God said, you've got to be kidding. After all that she has put you through, are you really sure? Hosea, more sure than ever before. God, well, if you are so sure, you'd better run as fast as you can to the marketplace, as any second now she's coming up on the auction block for sale. Hosea is up and running, and there she is, naked, fearful. The consequences of her adulterous lifestyle has finally led her here. But who would want a middle-aged woman of loose morals? Actually, who out there looking on has actually fathered some of my children? She wonders. Bids her low and slow. Then Gomer hears that compassionate voice of Hosea, the husband that she has so disrespected, bidding to buy her back. Going, gone. Sold to Hosea, one useless woman. Quickly a robe is swirled and wrapped around her, cradled in strong embrace, and her feet fleeing home, they reach the safety of familiar surroundings. She quickly cleans and bathes. Her clothes are still hanging up. She dresses in her very best and comes to meet her hero, her Redeemer, her new owner, her husband, cleansed, forgiven, restored, loved greater than any of her useless lovers of the past. But that is all now in the forgiven and forgotten past. A new life stretches forth before, and a new covenant. Just ask Gomer. Her old covenant agreement, her old marriage, she completely destroyed by her foolish sinning. But her old husband still loved her, diligently sought for her, found her on the scrap pile being auctioned off cheap. He loved her. He bought her. He brought her back. He washed her clean, cleansed, restored her. Now her new covenant agreement, her new marriage, that is, married to her old husband, that brand new life, that new marriage, abounding in gratitude and praise and loyalty and devotion, that she will shower upon him for a very long time. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things have become new. A new covenant. In conclusion, let us take something physical to comprehend something spiritual. We are all Gomers. We all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We have committed spiritual adultery in that we have followed other gods. We have wrecked our lives, hit rock bottom, and now are naked and afraid, standing upon the slave block, waiting some buyer to enslave us even deeper. The old covenant we have broken, but up steps Jesus. His shed blood upon Calvary is a hugely and exorbitant high price, but he lays it all down to buy us back, to redeem us, to reinstate us, to marry us once more, a new chance, a new life, a life free from sin and sorrow, a new covenant. By the way, have you accepted his magnanimous offer and acquired your new covenant? Its results are eternal. They are to go on for a very long time. The spiritual application, the covenant, both of them have the same terms and conditions. Deuteronomy 6:5, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy might. 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do, do it all to the glory of God. It is all about full and complete commitment, and whether you are at your uttermost or at the guttermost, God is still there. Gomer had the old covenant, married to God, but threw it all away, treated it with little respect, of minuscule value, until she lost it, ended up on the auction block, physically, spiritually naked, just like Adam and Eve. But Jesus diligently sought me. He found me. He bought me. He brought me back home. Song of Solomon 2:4, he brought me to the banqueting house, and his banner over me is love. And that is marriage terminology. That is covenant language. Will you respond and give Jesus yourself always? Revelation 21:2, and I, John, saw the new city, and I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Will you accept the terms and conditions and prepare your body and your soul and remain covenant married to God? Thank you very much for being here. Remember to walk softly, deal kindly, and trust God. And please can hit the like and subscribe button. Don't forget to share us. And until then, please stay safe.